supported by opposition independent opposition vacant House of Representatives diplomatic missions. In Thailand passport visa requirements visa policy. The House of Representatives is the lower house of the National Assembly of Thailand, the legislative branch of the Thai government. The system of government of Thailand is that of a constitutional monarchy and a parliamentary democracy. The system of the Thai legislative branch is modelled after the Westminster system. The House of Representatives has 500 members, all of which are democratically elected. 375 members were directly elected through single constituency elections, while the other 125 are elected through party list proportional representation. The roles and powers of the House of Representatives were enshrined in the Constitution of 2017. The House of Representatives was temporarily abolished as a result of the 2014 Thai coup d'état and replaced with the unicameral National Legislative Assembly, a body of 250 members, selected by the National Council for Peace and Order. After the promulgation of the 2017 Constitution in April 2017, the House of Representatives was re-established, but the Constitution allowed the military National Legislative Assembly to remain in place until the House of Representatives was formed following the 2019 general election. The House of Representatives was established after the Revolution of 1932, when the Khana Ratsadan overthrew the absolute monarchy and replaced it with a system of constitutional monarchy. When King Prajadipok signed the temporary constitution of 1932, he established the first legislative assembly in Thailand. It was an entirely royally appointed chamber. The first session of the People's Assembly was held on June 28, 1932, in the Ananta Samakhong Throne Hall. From then on, the House existed in various forms until it was abolished in 2014. See more at Constitutions of Thailand. The qualifications to be a candidate for the House of Representatives were outlined in Section 101, Part 2, Chapter 6 of the 2007 Constitution. The candidate had to be a citizen of Thailand by birth only. The citizen had to be at the age of 25 or older on election day and had been born in the province in which he or she intended to stand as a candidate. The candidate must have been a voter and therefore had to be on the electoral register for at least 5 years directly before the election. And he or she must also had a house or have been in public service in the province for 5 years. The candidate must also had been a member of an educational institution in that province for at least 5 consecutive years. Politically, a candidate had to be a member of one political party for a period of at least 90 days before election day, except in cases of dissolution where 30 days was the minimum period. This was done to discourage party switching before the election. For party list candidates, they must also had to meet the same qualifications except for the provincial restrictions. They were instead divided in lists based on provincial groups. Those specifically barred from being candidates were those addicted to drugs, declared bankrupt, unable to vote, former convicted felons, removed from public service for being corrupt or incompetent, had assets confiscated due to embezzlement, and finally, the individual had not been a member of the government or civil service, Senate, local administrations, member of the judiciary or other independent agencies. Before its abolishment, the House of Representatives had 500 members. 375 members were directly elected in single constituency elections by first past the post voting. The 375 constituencies were divided by population according to the census and tambons. The other 125 members were voted based on proportional representation. It is actually in truth a parallel voting system, or more precisely the mixed member majoritarian system. In Thai general elections, voters had 2 votes, one to select the member of parliament for their constituencies and the second to choose which party they prefer. Seats were assigned to parties as a result through the Daunt method. In accordance with the 2007 Constitution of Thailand, a general election was held every 4 years. Dissolution could happen anytime, which was done by the king with the advice of the Prime Minister through the use of the royal decree. Elections were held under universal suffrage. Every voter had to be a citizen of Thailand. If not by birth, then by being a citizen for 5 years. The voter had to be over 18 years old before the year the election was held. Voting in elections were also mandatory, as missing an election would result in the loss of the Right to be involved in political activities. Those barred from voting in House elections were members of the clergy. Those suspended from the privilege for various reasons. Detainees under legal or court orders and being of unsound mind or of mental infirmity. The Tier